Hello, and welcome to my shop. What a mess. So, I got that 240 finished up, and then the next day, this was dropped off here. So, this is a Trans Am. I don't know, I think it's a 99. Not a lot to do on it. We'll talk about that in a minute, but before. Man, hiccups. Before anything. Oh my gosh. Before anything, I gotta get this oil pan back on here. So I gotta get this guy all ready to go, get the windage tray and all the pickup tube and everything in it, clean all this silicone off of here, and get it put back together. I also have all of the converter bolts and bell housing bolts, and I have correct motor mount bolts that all need to go on this. So I can put the engine and transmission together and put them in a corner for a little while I work on the cross member and the steering. So I got to replace that steering shaft with a solid one and put the keep building up on that cross member and modify that one motor mount. So for this, that's all there is to do for like getting the engine mounted. I then have the rear end has arrived. Got a 9-inch right here housing. I've got all the brackets and everything I need over here somewhere, right there. Those Giffins mounts, good stuff. And the third member is over here. I have the third member. It is a 325 gear helical, so it's like a true track sort of center section. Third member. What's going on here? Alright. And then here's all the coilover stuff for it. There'll be more on that later. Just wanted to kind of talk about that real quick. Converter. That's torque converter. Brakes. Rear brakes. Good stuff. Cool. So this Camaro here is kind of a double project. This car has a Huron Speed turbo kit. The cold side doesn't fit because it now has a tube front end, and the Huron Speed kit was not for a tube front end, so that has to be fixed. Just the cold side needs to be modified a little bit, from where it goes to the turbo to the intercooler, and the intercooler's not mounted, radiator's not mounted, so all that stuff needs done on it. But mainly, we're doing an anti-roll bar. So I'm going to be back here working on this. I'll get some better lights when I start working on it. But yeah, our anti-roll bar is going to go in back here. And then we got to mount that fuel cell up there. Get the engine and transmission bolted together. Currently no transmission in. Got to get the flex plate put back on. They're having issues with the flex plate rubbing on the transmission bell housing. Gotta take care of that, and then just kind of clean it up a little bit. Get the rear end put back together. Currently no third member in it. I think he's waiting for another one. There's the 410 third member sitting over there, but the gears are just too tall. For 8th mile racing, actually, it'd be pretty good, but he's just a street car, so wants to be able to drive it a little bit. That'd be like 3,400 RPM at 70, so that kind of sucked driving. Especially with this. It's got a 370 all forged motor. Forged crank, forged rods, pistons. I don't know what all the specs on it are, but it's good stuff. Got some PRC heads. S485 from Midwest Turbos. I'll get it back down on the ground. We'll talk about it some more. Alright, so oil pans all sealed up. Now I got these fancy bolts here for the torque converter and for the bell housing. I will come back to that in a moment, but for right now, let's talk about this thing. So, Trans Am, anti-roll bar, gonna be going in. I got the car leveled, so the chassis leveled with I just used the lift to adjust the heights and got the frame level. The lower control arm mounts on the body level, and then I've been kind of messing with the rear end here a little bit. It's not super straight, because it'll be level in one spot and not so level in the other spot. So, well, I guess that's pretty consistent. Probably needs to be adjusted a little. Wrong way. There we go. So, I mean, 1/10 of a degree is not critical on this. Yeah, 2/10. So, we're level here. We're pretty much at ride height. We got, what's that, 1/2 degree, 0.4 degree. That's pretty level there. Ride height looks good as far as where the tire is sitting. Yeah, this thing was not wanting to sit at ride height with the springs in it. There's just no weight in the car. It's empty. And like I had the rear end just sitting on these stands, and it would not compress the springs enough. I think these springs are a little stiff for this, so that's another thing. I was trying to take this wheel off. One of the lug nuts is seized. Sprayed it some WD-40. We'll see what happens. And then since that happened, I just sprayed this side just because. So yeah, now I gotta get this thing all lined out, prepped up for getting that anti-roll bar welded in. It came with a couple tabs and a couple sleeves that I have to weld up to the cross member. Once I get it all figured out where it needs to go, I'll go in there with the TIG welder, weld it all in, and then we'll have an anti-roll bar on this Camaro. Pretty simple little project. Let's get at it. Alright, so I just stripped some paint off of the areas where the little tabs for the cross member are going to go. I used a little stripping wheel, so I didn't take off any material really, just the paint. So little dude start taking paint and the rest off. Quick strip disc. So I'm going to get those little tabs, these little guys right here. These little plates that you weld in to give the mount more support. So they're going to go in here. Sort of like this. It's about going to be going about right here. That's about where this guy's going to go. So I'll get them tacked in there. And then I will probably give them a little bit of a love tap here to get them formed in. Weld these guys all the way up, top and bottom, all the way around, and both sides. And then we'll get the anti-roll bar tacked up in there, get everything tacked where it's all working and I like it, and then I'll weld it all up. Alright, so this is why we just tack stuff up. That's not gonna work. I got a little too close there. So, just a couple tacks. I'll break them off, pull this thing back, and then try again. Ah, why is the weather always crazy here? What is this? Hail, snow, sleet? I don't know. It's pretty yucky though. Thought my air compressor was gonna blow up, but sure enough, it's just this. Oh, okay. Alright, so I got this thing in and square. I don't know why it's saying error. It doesn't like its angle that it's at. So 0.01 there. For reference, 0.01 there. Let's see if I can get. Oh, trust me that that's 90 degrees straight down. My bar's clear now. I had to move back just like a little bit, so I'll get this thing welded up and spray some paint on it. Well, where are we going? I'll get it welded up, and I'll come back around and weld up the tabs on the housing, then paint everything up, and then anti-roll bar is going to be done. So that was not too painful. It wasn't that fun, but it wasn't painful. So I'll weld this up real quick. Well, my camera died. You last saw this with the axle still sitting under it. So I had to move the axle all the way so I could get to some of the welds on top. I had to be on this side here to get to them. That was kind of a pain. Welding that cross member with the floor in there kind of sucked. But I mean, it is what it is. I smoked both of my number 12 cups, so I couldn't get anything with a good stick out to get easily to the top of those. And yeah, it just took quite a few tries to get the top welded nicely, but everything else went along nicely. It's in there good, so I'll spray this with some paint and then get the axle back under it and get the anti-roll bar bolted in, and then get the tabs on the axle. That'll be tomorrow. It's time to go home. It's 6 o'clock. I've been here for way too long, way too many hours into this project with running around back and forth trying to get in there to weld that, and I just ended up moving the axle. It made it quite a bit easier. Should have just done that to begin with, but I did need it there to mock everything up. So, man, I've got a huge mess in here. Alright, so with the car on the ground, let's see. We are anti-roll barring. Moving smoothly. That's just me pushing it with my hand. A lot more weight on the car when you have the front end and rear end pushing down. Tires are very flat too, so looks good. I think that we're not quite set it up with the rear end. Got about an inch outside of the tire there. I feel like the car needs to shift a little bit. Yeah, the rear end needs to push over this way a little bit, so we need to shorten that hammer bar a little bit. And that'll bring that angle, not, oh, what are we doing? What are we looking? It'll make that angle right there not so crazy on that left bar. Oh, gimbal's pissed. There we go. Yeah. Pull the car back over to the right a little bit, the body, and it'll center it up, and it'll make that angle not look so bad. Both side has like an angle of like half a degree from the top inward. So looks good though. Yeah, so up next would be doing radiator and intercooler up here. I have a radiator sitting over there. Do not have an intercooler. Since the car is done as far as like the rear end goes, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to lift it back up. Not lift it up, but I'm going to get the Volvo on the ground, put it down, push this out, flip it around, bring it back in, back it in right here, put it on the blocks, because everything I have to do now is just the front end turbo, cold side, mount the radiator. That's it for this. So much to do. That's next weekend's project, is getting the radiator and intercooler mounted, and then finish the cold side for this one. That should be a pretty attainable task for next weekend. But anyway, that's it for the anti-roll bar. I should have got more videos, but I didn't. It was a little bit frustrating process. I don't know if I still have them or not, but let's see here. I think I threw them away, but my gas lens, I was welding overhead, and it got into a little bit of a dirty spot, spattered on me, got into my gas lens for my number 12 cup twice, ruined both of my screens for it, so I had to finish the job with the number 8, which is fine. It worked just fine. It was just really a really frustrating day. So, and my battery died for my camera and the gimbal, so I just got it done. But anyway, like I said, let me know if you have any questions about the anti-roll bar install. I can definitely help you out with that. So thanks again. See you guys.